have one of the top retirement experts in the nation joining us right now on set, Abe Ashton, with One for the Money Financial, a retirement expert. Is that really true?
Well, my retirement expert, I guess we use expert loosely, but I do it a lot every single day, yeah.
I'm sure you're set up for your retirement.
Yes, I am set up for my retirement, trying to help everybody else get set up. Well, we're getting there every day.
So $1 million is what you need in your 401k?
Yeah, at least.
Who has that?
Least. Not nearly enough. I think the last study showed that less than 10% of Americans are prepared for retirement.
So why aren't we prepared?
You know, it's because we're really a society of procrastinators, and we don't really have a date in mind anymore, and yet things in the retirement industry are changing faster than any other time in our life. When we're talking about pensions and income and Social Security, all of those things.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, it's all in constant flux. So how do you plan for that when the things that you used to be able to count on are no longer there?
How long do you see us working on average? Until what age?
God, you know, I think for many people it's going to be close to 70 years old.
Yeah, I think it's going to go higher than that.
Do you think so? I wouldn't be surprised.
Longer.
We are living longer, which is a good thing, I guess, and a bad thing.
Right. And our needs are so much more now. I mean,
they are.
We were joking in the break. I was like, oh, do you have a Twitter account? And you said, no, I deal with seniors. But pretty soon, seniors are going to have all these mobile devices and have Twitter accounts. And all those things are expenses for that monthly data bill, you name
absolutely.
it. We're talking about 6 key elements that you found.
Right.
So we can be sure that we can retire with like a 5-year heads up. Where do you want to start with this? What's the top thing?
First thing I talk about is income. Mm-hmm. You really have to know what your source of income is going to be, because one of the scariest things is to give up a paycheck. I mean, it's one of the scariest things that a retiree does, is to say, I'm no longer earning a wage. Mm-hmm. And typically that income will come from one of 3 sources: Social Security, a pension, or investment income. But the key is to not be dependent on a solo income source. So you need to have a couple of income sources.
If both spouses are working,
mm-hmm.
should they retire at the same time?
I like seeing spouses retire together because it can cause some discord. Yeah, when one is at home, not in a job, and then so to see them retiring together, they can go on trips, they can go do those things together, go visit grandchildren and things.
But isn't that a double whammy in terms of having
it can be.
2 paychecks done?
And even more important to have a plan, right? I mean, that's why they need to have a plan going into it together. Yeah.
Okay. What are some other tips? Taxes is the second item.
Taxes are a huge one, because for seniors and retirees who are using Social Security as some part of their income, they get taxed at $32,000 on their just over $32,000 of income is when their Social Security becomes taxable.
So after they've taken home $32,000,
Social Security starts to get taxed.
At what percent?
Well, it depends on how much they are over, but it's 50% of their Social Security becomes taxable. So forget about the $200,000, $250,000 levels. You find a hard time finding seniors who are too worried about Warren Buffett's secretary, because they're paying taxes twice, right? You and I pay taxes on our Social Security as we contribute now, and many seniors and retirees are paying taxes on it later on, so they're getting taxed really on the same dollar twice. And that happens at just a very low income level for a married couple at $32,000.
When you advise folks getting ready to retire, are they surprised by that, or is that common knowledge?
They're shocked. And a lot of times they don't see where it is on their tax return, but when they see it, it bothers them. They see that tax coming out. They see they're paying taxes on Social Security, and it really bothers them because they know that they've already paid tax on that money once before.
We have a chat, and one of the chatters, Lady Gryphon, is writing in, and she says, how do you save for retirement when you're living from paycheck to paycheck? And rising inflation, but not rising pay. Yeah,
you stop living paycheck to paycheck. And I know that's so hard for Americans because we have to look at those things that we view as necessities and decide what we have to cut. And we have very different views on that, but you have to cut something out.
Yeah. You have to do it, even with nothing.
Even as tight as you are, you know we can find something. And we do in life often, when we need that little extra gift for one of our children. When we have something that's very important to us, we'll make the necessary cut, but we just don't view retirement as that big of a necessity.
Because it seems so far away.
Yeah, it's so far away,
but
so why do we worry about it?
But you're not factoring in that emergency surgery or the 4-year college tuition bill or job loss.
Right, but an emergency happens and somehow we find the money. So we need to view retirement as an emergency. Otherwise, we'll be all living with our grandkids, and they'll kill us for sure.
So few Americans have those emergency savings.
No.
We have more debt than we do in emergency savings. The next topic here is investments. It's a pretty broad category.
Yeah, it's a huge category because there's so many options, right? But possibly there's never been a more polarizing world for retirees to think about as it comes to investments.
Okay.
Historically low fixed interest rates and probably the most incredibly volatile market we've ever seen.
Right.
And so seniors are forced to choose one extreme or the other. Do I risk my savings? Do I risk my principal? Or do I let it sit in a bank at 1%? And you can see how they're torn with saying, what do? I don't want to lose my money. I don't want to risk it.
And many have risked it.
And they've risked it. And they've
cashed
lost.
out and lost.
Oh, subprime mortgage mess, the tech sector crashing, all of that has hurt. I am a huge fan of very conservative retirement strategies like fixed indexed annuities where there's zero market volatility there, but they still participate in some index linked returns without the risk. So for long-term savings, that's a great strategy. But certainly, I don't think seniors, retirees, or even people who are retiring in the next 5 years should be gambling a lot of their money in the market.
That's a tricky topic for a lot of people.
Oh, it's hard. It's a very sensitive subject.
I just think of my own parents and things that they've done with some of their investments, some good, some bad,
Yeah.
but all because they're nervous about the fact that they're starting to retire.
Yeah, and
You know?
a lot of them feel it's our.
And I find them educated, and they're still making mistakes.
Yeah. And people don't know where to go, and it's important to find an advisor who works with seniors and retirees
More Abe
regularly.
Ashtons.
Well, okay, well, if you say no, but the bottom line is there are a lot of people out there who specialize in seniors, and it's such a different time of life. They should have an advisor that does know what seniors
Right.
and retirees need.
We have about a minute left, so I want to get through these because they're important.
Okay.
Healthcare is the next issue.
Healthcare, big changes coming up. We've just heard some announcements on how Medicare Advantage plans are going to be affected.
Right.
And 25% of Americans are depending on those Medicare Advantage programs. And so it could get more expensive. And interestingly enough, I ask clients at seminars all the time, how many of you would recommend that your child or grandchild become a doctor? And all of them say no longer. And that's a scary thing. So health care is changing for sure.
As is estate planning.
Estate planning, a big one there, talking about the law. We're allowed to represent ourselves in all things legal. It's one of the great things about America. Unfortunately, when it comes to estate planning, when it really matters, you're dead or you're incapacitated, right? So have an attorney do it. Don't do it on your own. Have an attorney that can speak for your wishes and your desires once you're gone.
At what age or at what point in life should you get that set up?
As soon as you have children. As soon as you want to choose who's going to raise your children if something happens to you, you should have an estate plan put in place.
So 30 plus years before you retire.
Absolutely, because that's just as important to me as what happens when I'm
great tip.
as my kids. Sure.
And finally, a family here. What do you mean by that?
Family, make decisions now for how your family, or decisions if your family, let's say your kids want to live with you once you're retired, or they need to borrow money. Have those conversations with your spouse now so you know how you're going to answer those questions later on so it doesn't affect that relationship so dramatically.
Okay, I'm going back to the chat now. Lady Gryphon once again. We did that one. Sorry. Okay. Fayette County, it's time to loosen the restrictions on 401k transfers. This person's plan has poor offerings and they need flexibility for growth. Okay, so how can you encourage the change?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. 401k is called in-service distributions or in-service rollovers, where you can opt out of your company's plan and sweep out the balance and roll it over somewhere where you have more control over that 401k. It still keeps it tax deferred, so it's not a taxable event. But I think workers should have more choices within their retirement accounts because a lot of 401k options people just don't like.
Abe, I think what you said in the beginning, that people just procrastinate, I think that really sums this up because as you're saying all of these great points and tips, I did my taxes last night.
What a fun time.
I felt so overwhelmed. I couldn't imagine having to plan that far out if I could barely get what happened last year in order.
I know.
So it's challenging.
And so we just put it away. We just put it away and procrastinate it.
The worst thing you can do. Thanks so much for that, Abe Ashton, with One for the Money Financial. Your article, your website's on our screen, and you also have an article on foxbusiness.com.